All right, y'all, it's James Quantum Mechanic. Today I'm going to be talking about pliers and kind of when you would use each plier. I've done a little video before on kind of branding, and more specifically, I've talked about these in great detail. These are amazing. But I want to talk more about kind of the pliers you need to start working on cars, or if you're already working on cars, some kind of specialty pliers you might like to have. But anyway, I kind of want to go into detail about kind of when I use each one. So we'll just start from the left. Obviously, these are for oil filters. My favorite way to get oil filters off. I've also used these in the past for like holding struts, suspension struts when I need to take the top nut off. So these work okay for that. They have a nice large opening. They kind of do a little bit more than you might think, and they're cheap. I had the same set for like 10 or 15 years. I finally got a new set, and they work okay. They work pretty good. Next is probably going to be the most common set of pliers. Is going to be the mechanical slip joint pliers. These are the ones from Snap-on. They have 3 positions. These are really nice. They really mar up your work. They have a really aggressive teeth and everything. Like I said, I've talked about these before, but as a mechanic, if you don't have a good set of pliers, and even as a home, a homeowner or the guys at construction all the time, I mean, these work great too. But a good set of pliers, they do so much for pulling and bending metal and cotter pins and just really kind of all sorts of things, clips, and these do a lot of work. So you got to have a good set of mechanical slip joint pliers. Okay. Another one here is going to be these angled long pliers. I use these a lot for getting down deep into something, and the angle is nice. Obviously, you're going to need a set of straight pliers as well, but the angle I found more useful than not, because you can really bypass obstructions and really get down deep into something. And because you're coming in from the top, let's say you're getting a hose clamp, you get onto the hose clamp kind of flush, like 90 degrees to the hose. So it's kind of nice to use these. These work really well. I've had these for a very long time, and I'm pretty sure these are Harbor Freight, and they just work wonderfully. So a good set of long pliers, straight, and you can get them at 45, 90 straights. The 45s are probably my most used pliers there. Okay, these are the flush cut pliers. These are the ones from Icon. These are absolutely great. I only use these for soft wire, as it says, plastic and soft wire. I mostly use them for zip ties, but these are really useful. Let's say you get your arms real deep into an engine bay trying to work on something, and you're just getting scratched up by all kinds of stuff. If you've ever worked on a car, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These right here, pull your hands out of there. If you get cut up too much, just pull your hands out of there and just start snipping stuff away. Usually it's things like the wire insulation that's been frayed because it's an old car, or it might actually be zip ties that weren't cut properly. It could also be those little plastic body clips. It could be the car itself, like the plastic part of the car itself. Just cut all that stuff away, smooth it out. These are really great for that. I use these for that all the time, just to save my arms from getting all scratched up when I'm real deep into an engine bay. So just a really great tool. They make cheaper ones, obviously, but I like these. I like how durable they feel. Now, a good pair of diagonal cutters or dikes, also really great. Like I said, if you've never used something like these, or even the high leverage version, but I've gotten away with these for decades. I'm okay with not having the high leverage version of these. But anyway, these work great. If you've never used them for cotter pins, these are absolutely fantastic. Not just for cutting and shearing the cotter pin, but for just getting real tight close in on it and pulling it out. Really good for that. That's probably primarily what I use them for. Obviously, use them for cutting wire and stripping and such of that nature. I used to use these for cutting like tubing and stuff like that, but I just didn't like how it didn't really, no matter how hard I tried, I never really got a nice flush cut on like fuel line and vacuum line and stuff like that. So I have something else for that. Scissors, actually. But this, they work for all sorts of kinds of things, right? And I don't want to talk about this again, but this is the do-it-all plier. Like I said, if I was stuck on an island, these are the pliers I'd want to have. They do so much. But regardless, if you don't have these exact ones, a pair of needle nose pliers will do the trick for a lot of things, if you have all these other ones. But once again, these are my go-to for 90% of the times I'm grabbing pliers. This is what I'm grabbing. Okay, good pair of channel locks, okay? Channel locks are absolutely fantastic when you really need to get the leverage on something. The benefit to channel lock pliers is it lets your hand be really close together. The problem with trying to grab something that's really wide is you have to really open your hand, and you don't always get the leverage that you want. But if you were to just open the jaws up a little bit more, you know what I mean? This can be as big or as big as you need it to be, and your hands can really be close to each other. And that's what really lets you get not just the gripping power, but also the turning power for whatever you're trying to do. So I use these historically for like wheel bearings. When you tighten down the wheel bearing nut on like a rear wheel drive car and doing the front wheel bearings, this is what I would use, because I can clamp it up, and as I'm turning the wheel, I can tighten that nut down. But anyway, these are just, I mean, you name it, these will do it. Really, really great for hose clamps as well. You know, they have a really good serrations, and there's better brands out there, like these pliers right here, whatever you want to call them. These are absolutely great. I like the small ones. I find more use case for the small ones. I have the larger ones as well, for when I really need to gronk down on something. But this is the no-brainer. I mean, if you didn't want the channel locks, you could go without the channel locks if you had a good set of Knipex or Nipex or whatever you want to call them, pliers. These are absolutely fantastic, and they're really nice because this little cutout here gives you the cutout. It kind of mimics the shape of a hex nut. So if you did need to get onto a hex nut, it almost grabs it on 4 sides rather than this just grabbing it on 2 sides. So a really good product there, and obviously it does a lot more than that, and it's really delicate. I mean, it's just a really fantastic tool. So highly recommend that. Okay. Next is going to be some of these locking pliers. I like these for pinching off hose clamps. They work pretty well. They're not the best pliers in the world, but you know, they work for what you need them to work for. Next are just going to be a good set of locking pliers like this. I mean, they're meant to really grip down on something and really grab it. So one of the great things about these pliers right here is kind of how utilitarian they are. So you can really get down onto something, clamp down, and it's kind of there for good. And I've seen guys use these as steering wheels before. You know, then they just work really well. If you wanted to grab a pair of pliers and gronk down on this and make it even tighter, you could. Or if I really wanted a good strong bite on that, what I would do is I'd get it exactly where I want it to go, give it about 1/8 of a turn or 1/4 of a turn, get it back on there, and then really squeeze it down. You can play around with it like that if you wanted to, or you can tighten it down and then tighten it down with this right here. You could do that too, but either way, really great pliers. They do a number of things. Okay, next I kind of want to get into specialty pliers. So let's talk about electrical disconnect pliers specifically. So this electrical disconnects, I've talked about these in the past. These straight ones are my favorite. I find more use and utility out of the straight pliers than I get out of these bent ones here. I don't know what it is. I just feel like these are a bit goofy and awkward. They definitely work, but I oftentimes find myself using them upside down more often than not. And it's not very, I mean, it works great and I've used it a ton, but I find that these are 9 out of 10 times more useful than these angled ones. I mean, these angled ones are nice because they're spring loaded, and I don't know. Anyway, these straight ones are really good. I use these all the time. As a matter of fact, I use these when I'm worried I might break the connector by hand, because I can really control how much force I'm putting down on the electrical connector, so I can just bring it down enough and then just kind of wiggle it out, and I can use my offhand to kind of guide it a bit. So anyway, really great pliers. If you don't have these Lyle disconnect pliers, I highly recommend it. These are actually body clip pliers from Vim Tools. They make an electrical disconnect pliers, but I found that these actually work well for electrical disconnects as well. When you don't quite have the room for a set of pliers like that, and you need to get down deep into an engine bay, you can use these because they give you just a tidge bit more leverage with your 2 fingers than you can get with your hands or your fingers. So yeah, just maybe like 10% more force with a tool like this than I'd get with my hands. But when you're really down deep in an engine bay and you're already frustrated that you've been fighting with this electrical connector forever, you'd be happy to have something like this, and they're not too expensive. This is another one that's meant for body clips, but I've used it for electrical connectors. Now, these body clip pliers do serve their purpose as body clip pliers. You know, you could always pull your pocket screwdriver out and pop out the body clips and stuff like that. That works great. But these, I mean, they're meant to have like this sharp angle to it, so that way you can really get up underneath the body clip and pull it out. And yes, it works. I don't find myself finding that this saves me all that much time. Yes, it's a commodity and it's nice to have, but I oftentimes use these for things they're not supposed to be used for, like electrical disconnect pliers. This is another one of those specialty pliers. This is from Lyle as well. This is meant for fuel lines. I did a short on this if you want to check it out. But really what it's meant for is those specialty connectors where you have to pinch 2 tabs. Obviously, you can use your 2 fingers, right, for the ones that are obvious, like the ones I showed in the video, actually. But there are times where you really need a tool like this and nothing else will work. Or you can use the 2 screwdriver method where you're trying to fit 2 screwdrivers in there to make it work. It's a nightmare. This just makes your life a whole lot easier, getting in there, pulling out that connector and getting it out. So yeah, really good tool there. Next, let's talk about hoses, okay? How to get hoses off. So these are some long hose clamp pliers, or hose pliers. They make different sizes. I'm just showing you one of them. And these are really great for popping down in there, grabbing the hoses and pulling them off. Really, really, really good. I've also used these as like spark plug boot pliers, kind of like these. You don't need these anymore nowadays. You don't come across it too much. These are for getting down into an engine bay, getting behind the spark plug boot and pulling it off, so you don't damage the spark plug boot. Anyone who's ever pulled an old spark plug boot off and half of it stays on the spark plug, you know what I'm talking about. But this is so you can get up in there and take it off. I've used these for that before, and I've also used these as electrical disconnect pliers in the past because of kind of how they clamp down and clamp together. Not my favorite thing to do, but I've done it. But these work great for that, for those hoses. Really get on the hose and pull it out. You can definitely puncture the hose if you're not careful, but it's meant to grab it and you can kind of twist the hose off. And they work great. There's different brands, different sizes. I only have a set of these long ones, and I've had them for a long time, and they work great. So would recommend something like that. The next one is going to be this tube removal tool. So this is meant to go between the hose. So let's say this is a hose and this is the bracket to go on there and pull it apart. This works great, and I do find myself using this a lot. This lives in my 90% box, my everyday box, because I use it all the time. Pretty much anytime I need to get a hose off, I will preferentially grab this, even if I think I can do it by hand. Even if it's like a small vacuum line that I know I can do by hand, I'll use this because this is a million times less likely to break the little plastic nipple that the vacuum line is connected on. So this goes on, it pushes up against something nice and sturdy on the backside here, and then it pushes the hose off here. And I'll tell you, this has saved me from breaking those little plastic bits so many times. It's just because of how it separates, it really does it might not look it, but it really does separate parallel, which is what you want, and it gives you 2 points of contact. So really great tool here for disconnecting hoses and tubes, right? This is for those specialty hose clamps. It has a little groove here for the notch. But these are great. I mean, I bought these in a set from Amazon. I bought a whole bunch of them. These are the most used ones I have. This one I use all the time for those specialty hose clamps. Like on an inner tie rod, or maybe on like BMWs where they have specialty hose clamps and stuff like that. That's for this. That's the kind of tool you use, this one right here. This is another one kind of meant for hose clamps. You see how it has the bowl there? That bowl's really nice. And then this is another slot in the tool here. That slot's meant to grab onto the hose clamp as well. And this large bowl cup is to grab onto the other one. And this one's really good for when you grab onto the hose clamp and it fits into those grooves nicely. It's not going anywhere. Sometimes when you use another set of pliers, if you grab a hose clamp and you move it just right, it slips out of the pliers and then it slips off, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. This is nice because it kind of locks into both places. So something like that. They make much nicer versions of these as well. This is another one, very similar concept, different application, but it's a little bit wider on the inside or on the outside and wider here on this inside one. Same thing, right? All it's meant to do is grab one of those hose clamps and take them off. Really good tool, really good time saver. The next one is my absolute favorite. This is from Lyle as well. And this is one where you squeeze the handle here and it pulls these together. Okay, and what it's supposed to do is you see that it pulls them together like that. And that's meant to grab your hose clamp. This is so valuable. And it locks it in place, so you can squeeze the hose clamp, lock it in place, and then use both hands to pull off whatever hose or clamp or whatever you're trying to get off. And you don't have to worry about that hose clamp slipping off, because it's in there with this right here. This is also great for when you really got to dig your hand deep into something. I'm not a huge fan of getting underneath the car if I can help it, but even if I had to get underneath the car or from the top, sometimes, however you're doing it, you have to stick your hand really far into something to get it in. So this tool right here, I'll do a short on this next time I get a chance, next time I use it maybe, but this is just really great at getting into remotely or hard to access. And even sometimes you'll have like an intake manifold, and then you'll have the wiper cowlets right on top. So you'll have a hose clamp that you could maybe fit a pair of pliers in there, but let's say after you fit the pliers in there to squeeze the hose clamp, well, now you have nowhere to go. You have nowhere to fish it out. This, because of how low profile it is, really gets down into there, lets you compress that hose clamp, and then you can use your tool, your pick, or your screwdriver, whatever, to get off. So really good tool there. Up next is going to be this right here. This is a cheap one from, I think I got this from O'Reilly's, but this is a really great tool for those small snap rings. This one's nice because you can use, as internal or external set of snap ring pliers, and it works great. You can change these bits really quickly. It's not the most precise thing in the world, but for what I do in the automotive industry, this does more than enough, and it has all these different sizes and angles and everything built into the handle. Really good. I've had these for over 15 years, and they've held up really nicely. This is a new addition to the family. This is I used to have a much cheaper set. This is from Icon. This is only reason I got these is because these are, believe it or not, made in the United States. Look at that. So kind of cool to get some Harbor Freight tools that are made in the United States. Hopefully that becomes a trend. But these are the internal external snap ring pliers. You got to have yourself a good set of these, something with a relatively long handle, preferably something that ratchets down like that. Okay, because these snap rings, they have so much force behind them. When you're trying to bring it down, if you don't have a good locking mechanism, then you'll just be slipping and fighting, and you'll just be cussing at yourself all day. So get this in there on the snap ring, bring it down, lock it in place, and then work your way out. And then just in case, grab yourself a pocket screwdriver or something to get in between the snap ring and where it's knocked into, just in case these do slip off, because they do have a tendency to slip off, and then it expands your snap ring or compresses your snap ring, whichever you're doing. So you want something stuffed in there so you don't have to redo all that work. Anyway, only use these a handful of times so far, but they work really great. This is a really good product. Got these on sale. Really good. So anyway, that's it. That's my spiel on pliers, as much detail as I care to give you guys. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, and let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see coming up. Thanks a lot for watching.